Hey guys, welcome back. This is Mindy. So recently I have put a pause on posting regular content, but I'll be back starting this week. I have been taking time off to educate myself, and in light of recent events, I just don't feel like it's right to put out fun reaction or tag content. Now is really the time for non-black people to just stop putting out content, to shut up and listen, learn, amplify black voices, writers, activists, and really reflect on our own inaction, internalized racism, learned racism, all of that.
Anti-racist is not the same as being not racist. And I was very confused. I had to read that page a couple times.
The term not racist,
Yeah.
in which people are denying that they are racist. That's really the only meaning, real meaning that this term is held. But anti-racist, in contrast, has a meaning of somebody who views the racial groups as equals, someone who is pressing for policies that creates racial equity.
I know that there are many other people out there who are more educated, more informed, and more well-spoken about this than I am, but as a person of color who believes in equality for all, I want to do my part as best as I can. And yes, I acknowledge that I am taking up space, but I want to use this platform, no matter how small it is, to help amplify BIPOC voices. Also, as a way to support the cause, AdSense revenue from this video will be donated to Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is not new, it is not a trend, it is the movement to end the cycle of repeated tragedies, to work towards a world where Black lives are no longer systematically targeted for demise. This was started in 2013 in response to the release of Trayvon Martin's murderer. So really, I think it's time to ask ourselves why a movement in 2013 still relevant in 2020? Why are signs used in past protests being reused in today's marches? There has been a history of anti-black violence, and it speaks so much about how much more progress is needed. Such tragedies should not be happening today. This needs to end. We need to do more to end this so that unjust deaths like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Christian Taylor, and so many more undocumented cases will not be repeated. I've seen people claiming all lives matter in response to BLM, and after a while it just gets really infuriating and frustrating because firstly, no one is saying that that's not true. Here's a very simple analogy that I picked up over the past week. If I say that my house is on fire and you say all houses matter, as much as that is true, but all houses are not on fire now. My house is. So all lives won't matter until Black Lives Matter. We need to focus on the pressing issue, the one that needs the most attention. This is not an America only issue. Racism is everywhere, and yes, it affects all of us. Why is the protest going global? Why are people of all colors marching together in solidarity? The reason is simple. This is a basic human rights issue. We are fighting for the basic rights for all human beings to be treated as equals.
My skin is not a crime! My skin is not a crime! Power to the people! Power to the people! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
Take the stand. Be anti-racist. I am a person of color. My race is Chinese. I grew up in a place where my race is the majority, and I acknowledge that I am privileged, that I get to enjoy a system that was built for me, that I read about racism instead of having to experience it, and I know I will never understand how it feels, but I stand with you. Racism still exists in our society, prejudices still exist, discrimination, internalized racism is a thing. It is what we were taught, but it is not an excuse. And as much as I am not racist, I believe that I have been racist one way or another. Whether racism was unintentional, unspoken, or expressed through microaggression, it still is wrong. It is wrong to discriminate a person based on something as natural as the color of our skin. I know learning and hearing about all of this can feel very helpless, but there's so much that we can do. Donate to causes, sign petitions, keep an open mind, listen and learn and spread the message, self-reflect a lot, be brave enough to admit our mistakes, Speak up when you see or hear racist comments and acts, and yes, that includes starting difficult and super uncomfortable conversations with those around you, and continue doing this work and normalize it even after BLM stops trending. This really should never happen again.
It's a start. I think what the most important thing is what we do after. Like, I don't know, obviously you're a media man, it's where this message goes after and who it goes to, who feels it and who can take something from this.
I stand in full support of the protest. I know that people argue that it is destructive, violent, unproductive even. And yes, I know it's sad to see the destructions all over the news, but if we focus on destructions, we're saying that things matter more than human lives. So just don't. Also, fact check. Look up which party was the violent one. And the protests are working. Change is happening right now. And this truly is the efforts of those who marched, those who spoke up, those who donated, those who signed petitions, those who spread and raised awareness. And this just shows that every voice does matter. So don't ever think that yours doesn't. When we come together in solidarity, we become one very, very, very loud voice that cannot be ignored. And there is power in that. For me, if this video manages to somehow send a message to just one person and that person shares it with another and then another and then another, it makes a huge, huge difference. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful, so don't ever underestimate your voice. It has come to a point where we cannot just turn our backs on unjust tragedies like this and go back to our normal lives, move on, and pretend like it did not happen or that it is an isolated event. For Black people, their norm is being mistreated, subjected to systemic racism, and that is just not okay. If you are tired about hearing about BLM, racism every single day on social media, on the news, imagine how it feels like to experience racism every day. This is a revolution, and no revolution is ever quiet or comfortable.
But also recognize that we must be prepared to continually challenge that which appears to us to be most normal. Revolution upsets normative processes, class-based, gender-based, race-based, sexuality-based, ability-based, and I'm just beginning the list. And in this sense, there will always be revolutions looming in the future. Thank you very much.
I cannot express enough how much it matters when someone I look up to or admire speaks up about matters like this. So I urge you to do your part. This is not the time to stay silent and watch things happen. Don't expect Black people to educate you. There are resources out there. I'll leave information and links below as to how we can help, petitions we can sign, causes to donate to, as well as resources that we can read to educate ourselves. Enough is enough. This has gone on long enough. Do our parts. Don't be racist. Make 2020 count.
If we stand up against racism, we want much more than inclusion. Inclusion is not enough. Diversity is not enough. And as a matter of fact, we do not wish to be included in a racist society.